Part 29 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. So I'm going to tell you a pretty horrifying true story about Arnold Schwarzenegger abusing his power to help a young, powerful, rich, connected kid who unalived somebody intentionally. So let's go to 2008, okay? So like we're going way back. This is when Arnold was governor. So 2008, we're in the San Diego area, right outside San Diego State University. And there's these two kids named Esteban Nunez and Ryan Jett. They're not kids, they're adults. So Esteban and Ryan, let me just tell you about them. Esteban Nunez is the son of Fabian Nunez, the most powerful Democratic lawmaker in California at the time. Okay? So this kid's got politics in his blood. So Esteban and Ryan, they're drinking, and they're denied entry at a frat party just outside San Diego State. They weren't students there, they were just going down there to party and cause trouble. So because they got kicked out of the frat party, they decided to leave, go get some weapons, which were knives, and come back to get revenge. And their plan was to either burn the frat house down or use the knives on someone, which they were allowed to do. So at 2 a.m., they bump into the victims. They bump into Luis Santos. Don't forget that name. Luis didn't make it through this, okay? So they run into Luis Santos. There's an initial altercation, and Luis's other friends run to his aid. This is very similar to the pattern of my attempted unaliving. So I get a little, yeah. They run over, and they even called it a melee in court, which I've called this a melee many times in my testimonies and in my series. So there's a lot of parallels that just get me like, So witnesses saw Esteban Nunez, the lawmaker's son, and Ryan Jett using the knives on multiple people, okay, to unalive them intentionally. One of the boys that was stabbed with the knife, he was put into an induced coma, and the other boy that was attacked with the knife, it pierced the left ventricle of Lewis's heart, and he died at the scene. I think about this and I get emotional because that could have been me with my assault. Like, it's crazy that I survived. I was unconscious with Maurice Driz with his knees on each side of my head, wailing away while the bar manager's trying to pull him off my body, you know? And I was attacked by multiple other people in their group, and it's just a miracle that I'm alive and I'm able to even talk, you know? Like, so this gets me going. Later that night, Esteban Nunez and his buddies, they were caught on a 7-Eleven security camera. They were driving up north, like fleeing the scene back to Sacramento, and they were caught on a 7-Eleven camera. They went in, they bought a big gulp cup, and then they went out and filled it with $1.30 worth of gasoline. And then from there, they went over to the Sacramento River up in their neighborhood, and they set all of the weapons and their bloody clothes, they set them on fire, and then they threw it into the Sacramento River to get rid of the evidence. So, yeah, a lot of conspiracy going on here. So all of this happens, and the parents of Luis Santos, the boy who died at the scene, their parents' names are Fred and Kathy Santos. My heart breaks for them. Fred was quoted as saying, "My concern at the time was that politics might interfere with justice in the legal system," when he found out that one of the attackers was the son of the most powerful Democratic lawmaker in California at the time. So he was worried. He had no idea how much he was about to worry, though. So then they found out that Esteban Nunez, this violent kid who's using the knife on people, that there were letters of support sent to the judge from a union leader, a retired assemblyman, and then LA Mayor Antonio Villagrosa. So this reminds me now, this gets me angry because now I'm starting to think of like Mila and Ashton sending in those gross letters of support to the judge, being like, our grapist friend Danny Masterson isn't that bad when he's not graping people, you know, like it's just awful. It's awful abuse of power, and it's just disgusting. So, all right, sorry, I'm getting off track. So Nunez and Jett, those two guys, they pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter, and they were given a plea deal. And the plea deal was to be sentenced to the max of 16 years behind bars in prison. And this was like, this all happened at the last minute during jury selection so that they didn't have to go in front of a jury. And the parents of the victims, Fred and Kathy Santos, agreed to this. They felt like they should get life in prison, but it's also very traumatic going through the whole trial and the system and maybe appeals and all that. So they were like, okay, it's bittersweet. Like, at least we'll know they'll be quiet behind bars for 16 years. They can think about what they've done, and we'll have some peace for a minute. It's bittersweet. I get it. I get the decision. I might have done the same. But that's not what happened. So in 2000, it was like late 2010, about 2 years after the unalivings in 2008. 2010 is when the trial and everything was beginning and the deal happened. And on December 6th of 2010, end of the year, Nunes's attorneys suddenly submitted a motion to end their appeal. Like, we're not going to fight it. What? So, fast forward to less than 1 month later. It's now January 2nd, 2011. And out of the blue, this is like 6 months after the convicted killers were sent to prison. Out of the blue, a reporter calls the mother of the victim, calls the parents of the victims, Fred and Kathy Santos, and says, hey, I just wanted to know what your reaction is to the clemency that Arnold Schwarzenegger gave to the Nunes kid and the surprise commutation of Nunes. And they were like, what are you talking about? What? No, the DA would have told us, like, that couldn't have happened. So they go online on the internet. First thing they see is the picture of Esteban Nunes, and he's freed. He's gonna be freed. So this is what happened. This was in the final day that Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California. And in the final minutes before he left, so these are things that you can't even, he's doing this, he's specifically doing this so that nobody can, so that the parents don't get a say, so that they don't get time to absorb what happened or to fight it. He's making it so that the public doesn't hear about it and fights and says, no, this can't happen. We're going to stand up. We're going to do a petition. We're going to march. We're going to protest. None of that was allowed because in the minutes before Arnold left office, he cut Esteban's 16-year sentence in half. In half. And Fabian Nunes, the political lawmaker father of the killer, he denied that he forced Schwarzenegger into granting favor. And Arnold said, I believe Nunes' sentence was excessive. The San Diego DA responded with, and he's right, he said, this was a complete betrayal of a system of justice and fairness. And he questioned whether Nunes even submitted a clemency application to the governor. Like, it looked like it was just done without even, skipping all the protocol. So when people asked Nunes' attorney, did you had to have submitted a clemency thing, otherwise this looks like you're just two buddies playing God. And Nunes' attorney said, of course we did, but we refused to release it. Okay. So everyone's just saying, like, meh to the victims and the family. So the last thing that Arnold did, Arnold ordered all clemency files sealed for 25 years on top of his last act in the final minutes of his governorship. And he got criticism because people were saying, well, you did this because you have like a working relationship with politician Nunes. Arnold said, and I quote, he sounds like a 15-year-old girl with like, it says, well, hello, I mean, of course you help a friend. Funny because I've had this belief that Arnold has been helping his friends, the Drizzes, throughout our attempted unaliving thing. Anyways, so in 2011, during this year, all this happens to the Santos family, Arnold returns to Hollywood and the Santos family returns to court. They returned to court because they filed a suit against Arnold for violating Marsy's Law. You should look up Marsy's Law. This is like what we have to deal with, especially when you deal with powerful predators that have all, everything at their fingertips. Two judges agreed. They went over the Marsy's Law, the violation. They said, yeah, we agree that this is grossly unjust what Arnold did, and it's deserving of censure. But it's not illegal because Marsy's Law only applies to hearings, parole hearings, not executive clemency, because this is unprecedented. So the Santos family was able to change this law, state law. They changed it because of what Arnold did was so disgusting. They changed it, so now the new law is that governors are required to give victims and prosecutors at least 10 days notice before issuing clemency. Oh my God, 50 seconds. Okay, and here's a quote from the father, Fred Santos. He plays a hero in the movies, yet in real life, he's not a hero. He's a dirty politician. My son was stabbed in the heart when he was alive. Schwarzenegger stabbed him in the back after my son was killed. He should be disgusted with himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is not the first time he has pulled this and tried to ruin innocent families. And I want you guys to remember those names, Luis Santos and his parents, Fred and Kathy Santos. They deserve our respect.